Everything in your world is a mirror, a perfect reflection of your inner state. What you call reality is not built from effort, struggle, or chance. It is born from imagination, sustained by feeling, and shaped by the assumptions you dare to hold as true. If you want to change your world, you must begin by changing your inner conversations. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the operant power. When you assume a thing to be true, when you feel it with conviction and live from that end, not toward it, the universe bound by divine law can only echo your command. It is not about wishing or hoping. It is about entering the state, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and resting there. Tonight I will show you how to manifest in a way the universe cannot deny. Not because it is forced to obey, but because it has no choice but to reflect. The outer world is plastic to the mold of your inner certainty. Align yourself with the feeling of what you desire, and let that feeling become more real than anything else. From that place, manifestation becomes inevitable. The power of assumption lies at the very core of how reality unfolds. Every individual walks through life clothed in their assumptions, often unaware that these inner beliefs are actively shaping and coloring the world they experience. An assumption is more than a thought or an idea. It is a deep-seated acceptance of something as true, even before it is seen with the eyes or touched with the hands. When you assume something, you are not merely hoping for it. You are claiming it inwardly as your reality. And in the unseen world, this inner claim begins to mold the external circumstances to align with it. Human beings were not designed to live as victims of fate or chance. They are endowed with the creative power of consciousness, and the assumptions they hold act as the mold through which that creative power flows. When you assume something with conviction, you set in motion an unseen chain of events that begins to conspire toward the fulfillment of that assumption. This is not about forcing things or manipulating outer events. It is about aligning your inner state so precisely with the desired reality that the external world becomes compelled to reflect it. Most people do not realize that they are constantly assuming. They walk through life with thoughts like, things never work out for me, or I'm always unlucky in love, and they reinforce those assumptions day after day. As a result, their life continues to mirror back to them those same unwanted realities. It is not that life is cruel or that destiny is fixed. It is that they have unknowingly accepted these assumptions as truths, and the law must fulfill them. The law is impersonal. It does not care whether you assume wealth or poverty, joy or despair. It simply brings into form the content of your dominant assumptions. The power lies not in what you wish for, but in what you assume to be true. Wishing keeps the thing at a distance. You are always reaching, always longing, never receiving. But assumption brings the thing close. It makes you live as if it is already so. And this as if becomes the doorway to manifestation. The world around you bends to meet the world within you. If you dare to assume that you are already what you long to be, and you persist in that inner stance, the outer world cannot help but rearrange itself to reflect it. This law is not mystical in the sense of being elusive or unknowable. It is mystical in its simplicity. Every great spiritual teacher who spoke in parables understood this law. When they said, believe that you have received it and it will be yours, they were pointing to the power of assumption. Not believe that you will receive, but believe that you already have. This subtle shift makes all the difference. For when you believe that something is already yours, your inner state becomes one of peace, gratitude, and certainty. And these are the exact frequencies that bring the desired thing into your experience. Your imagination is the workshop of assumption. It is not enough to say words or repeat affirmations without feeling. What you imagine must be fused with the emotional certainty that it is real. If you close your eyes and see yourself living in the reality you desire, feeling it, touching it, rejoicing in it, you begin to occupy that state in consciousness. And as you persist in that state, your assumption hardens into fact. The outer world may not shift immediately, but it must shift eventually. The law is faithful. What you assume with persistence becomes what you experience. Many people falter because they assume only momentarily, and then revert back to doubt. They may imagine for 5 minutes and then spend the rest of the day worrying, fearing and reacting to what their senses show them. But senses can lie, and often do. They show you the residue of past assumptions. If you are to manifest a new reality, you must not be swayed by appearances. You must hold fast to your assumption even when there is no evidence of its truth, especially when there is no evidence. That is the testing ground of faith, not in some abstract deity, but in the creative power within you. To assume is to choose your identity before the world gives you permission. It is to say, this is who I am now, and to live from that inner claim regardless of external contradiction. It may feel strange at first. Your mind will resist. Your past will rise up. Your senses will argue. But if you remain unmoved, if you continue to dwell in the assumption of your desire fulfilled, the resistance will fade and the reality will conform. You will see people, circumstances, and opportunities appear that are perfectly aligned with your inner assumption, as though they had been summoned from thin air. Yet it was not chance, it was law. This is the secret that governs all creation. Not effort, not struggle, but assumption. Your assumptions are seeds and your attention waters them. Most of what you experience in life is not due to conscious choice, but unconscious assumption. That is why awareness is so critical. When you begin to observe your assumptions and deliberately choose new ones, you reclaim the authority over your life. You are no longer drifting, you are directing. You are no longer reacting, you are creating. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is not merely a byproduct of your thoughts, but the very substance that gives life to them. A thought without feeling is like a seed without soil, dormant, inactive, powerless. But once feeling enters the picture, it charges the thought with vitality, making it magnetic to the circumstances and people required for its realization. The creative act, therefore, does not happen just in the realm of ideas, but in the emotional acceptance of those ideas as already real. To feel something is to accept it on a deeper subconscious level, and it is the subconscious, not the surface mind, that molds reality. People often try to manifest things by thinking positively or repeating affirmations, but they forget the essential ingredient, feeling. Without feeling, the words remain hollow. The subconscious is not impressed by empty declarations. It responds only to what is felt as true. You may say, "I am wealthy," 1,000 times a day, but if you feel poor, live in fear, or worry about money, the subconscious will register poverty, not wealth. It is the emotional tone behind the words that gets impressed upon the deeper mind. The world around you is a faithful mirror of your inner emotional climate. Every state of consciousness has a corresponding feeling. When you dwell in a state of love, confidence, gratitude, or peace, you are tuning yourself to a frequency that naturally attracts more of the same. The opposite is also true. When you indulge in fear, anger, or doubt, those emotional states harden into persistent patterns that show up again and again in your outer life. What you consistently feel becomes what you unconsciously expect, and what you expect becomes what you experience. This is why mastering feeling is essential, if one wishes to shape reality consciously. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key to manifestation. It means experiencing inwardly the emotion you would feel if your desire were already realized. If you desire companionship, you must feel the joy and comfort of already being deeply connected to someone. If you desire success, you must feel the satisfaction and confidence of already having achieved your goal. This is not about pretending or fooling yourself. It is about stepping into the state inwardly and allowing that emotional reality to become more dominant than what your senses currently show you. Imagination and feeling must go hand in hand. You imagine the scene, yes, but you must also immerse yourself in the feeling that the scene evokes. You must lose yourself in it so completely that your body begins to respond as though the imagined event were happening right now. The heart may race with excitement, the eyes may tear with joy, the breath may deepen with peace. This emotional embodiment is the signal to the subconscious that this experience is real and present. And once the subconscious accepts it, it begins to outpicture it in the external world. You cannot feel one thing and manifest another. The law does not make exceptions. If you feel defeated, the world will bring you more defeat. If you feel empowered, the world will conspire to support your strength. Feeling is the root. The events, people, and outcomes in your life are only the fruit. This is why it is never enough to simply think your way into a new life. You must feel your way there. Thoughts can come and go, but feelings linger. They leave impressions. And it is those impressions that shape your destiny. To deliberately choose your feelings is to take command of your inner world. Most people allow the outer world to dictate how they feel. If something good happens, they feel happy. If something bad happens, they feel discouraged. They are like thermometers reacting to external stimuli. But the one who understands this law becomes a thermostat, choosing the inner temperature regardless of the outer weather. By cultivating and maintaining the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even when appearances contradict it, you reverse the flow of cause and effect. You make the inner cause and the outer the effect. There is great power in consistency. A fleeting feeling will not change much, but a sustained emotional state becomes a creative force. It carves deep grooves in the subconscious mind and begins to gather momentum. Like a snowball rolling down a hill, the longer you remain in the feeling of fulfillment, the more real and inevitable it becomes. People may call it coincidence, luck, or divine intervention, but it is none of those. It is law responding to the sustained emotional assumption you have dared to entertain. The beautiful thing is that feeling is something within your control. You may not be able to control all the circumstances of your life, but you can choose what to dwell on, how to interpret your experiences, and what emotions to cultivate. This choice becomes your creative tool. When you start your day in the feeling of gratitude or peace or success, and carry that feeling with you as you go, you are seeding your world with experiences that must align with that inner state. You are not waiting for something to happen in order to feel good. You are feeling good now, and because of that, things begin to happen. This inner work must be done in quietness and confidence. The world does not need to see your efforts, but it will see the results. When you live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you walk differently, speak differently, radiate a different presence, and though the outer evidence may lag behind, it must eventually appear. For feeling is the secret passage between what is imagined and what is real, the invisible hand that draws form from the formless. And when you learn to feel deliberately, deeply, and faithfully, you unlock the very heart of creation itself. Living from the end is the art of occupying the state of your fulfilled desire before any evidence of it appears in your external world. It means shifting your identity inwardly, assuming that what you desire has already come to pass, and thinking, feeling, and acting in harmony with that reality. Instead of hoping that something will happen or waiting for circumstances to change, you claim the end result now within consciousness and embody it as your present state of being. This practice places you in alignment with the version of yourself who already has what you seek, and it is this alignment that brings the invisible into visibility. Most people live in reaction to what they observe. They believe they must first see change to feel it, first receive something before they believe it's possible. But this approach keeps them trapped in a cycle of waiting. Living from the end breaks this cycle by reversing the order. Feel it first, assume it first, and then see it. When you live from the end, you act as if the thing you want is already part of your life. You no longer pray for it as something far away, but give thanks for it as something already received. This inner conviction becomes the seed from which the outer reality must grow. Living from the end is not about pretending or deceiving yourself. It is about consciously stepping into the identity of your desired state. If you desire health, you assume the feeling of being whole. If you desire financial freedom, you assume the mental and emotional posture of someone who is already abundant. You begin to think the thoughts, speak the words, and carry yourself in a way that matches that fulfilled version of you. This alignment sends a powerful message to the subconscious, which always accepts what is impressed upon it with feeling and consistency. The subconscious does not question whether what you imagine is fact or fiction. It simply expresses what you dwell upon with belief. To live from the end, you must let go of the need to constantly check your external circumstances for confirmation. The outer world is always lagging behind the inner world, reflecting your past beliefs and emotions. If you judge your success by what you see, you will be tempted to fall back into doubt. But when you commit to your assumption and refuse to deviate, even when there is no outer proof, you demonstrate true faith in the law. You are no longer asking whether it is working, you know it is, because you have already received it in consciousness. This method requires imagination and persistence. You must repeatedly return to the end scene, the mental picture of your wish fulfilled, and dwell in it until it becomes natural. It may feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first, especially if it contradicts years of conditioning. But with repetition, the imagined state becomes familiar and eventually habitual. Once the subconscious accepts it as your new reality, the outer world must conform. Opportunities, ideas, people, and events begin to arrange themselves to match the inner assumption, often in ways you could not have planned. Living from the end also involves emotional discipline. You must guard your inner conversations and reactions. When doubt, fear, or discouragement arise, you must remember that these emotions belong to the old state, not the new one. By choosing not to dwell in those feelings, you withdraw your energy from the undesired reality and feed the one you want to experience. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about shifting your attention and allegiance. You decide what is real to you based on what you feel and persist in, not what the world says. When you encounter challenges or delays, you do not interpret them as signs of failure. You see them as remnants of the past, already dissolving in the presence of your new state. You continue to live from the end, knowing that what you claim in consciousness is always greater than any temporary appearance. You may revise the moment, return to your end scene, reaffirm your inner reality, and stay the course. You become unmoved, anchored in the unseen, because you understand the nature of the process. Your thoughts, words, and actions become expressions of the fulfilled state. not desperate efforts to make something happen. There is a sense of calm, detachment, and inner knowing. You are not striving or forcing. You are receiving, allowing, and embodying. And from this place you naturally take inspired action, not to cause the manifestation, but as a natural extension of your new identity. The path unfolds before you, and you recognize each step as confirmation of what you already accepted within. This practice is powerful because it goes beyond superficial techniques and addresses the root of all manifestation, your state of being. It is your state that determines what you attract and what you experience. By living from the end, you claim dominion over your reality and step into the role of conscious creator. You stop asking and start assuming. You stop chasing and start being. And in doing so, you collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment, allowing what you once sought to find its way to you without resistance or delay. Inner conversations are the silent dialogues you hold within yourself all day long, often unnoticed, but always powerful. These thoughts, feelings, assumptions, and imagined interactions form the core of your mental atmosphere. They are not meaningless or idle. They are seeds that grow into the experiences you call your life. Every word you speak inwardly, every mental replay of an argument, every internal expectation or fear is a blueprint that the subconscious mind accepts and builds upon. You may never say these things out loud, but they echo throughout your reality, shaping the circumstances, people, and events that unfold around you. The nature of these inner conversations determines the quality of your world. If your inner dialogue is one of doubt, fear, criticism, or unworthiness, those sentiments will mirror themselves outwardly. You may find yourself repeatedly facing rejection, encountering people who criticize you, or watching your plans unravel. And yet, if you trace back those events, you'll often find that your mind rehearsed them first. The conversation was had, the fear was felt, the outcome was expected, not on the outside but within. The world simply played its role in responding to your internal command. Most people are unaware of how frequently and automatically these inner conversations happen. They are like background music, always playing, always influencing, yet rarely examined. You may be going about your day, smiling and polite on the surface, while internally telling yourself this will never work, or people always let me down. These inner scripts become so familiar that they go unnoticed, but they are not without consequence. They are orders issued to the subconscious, and the subconscious fulfills them with precision. To change your outer world, you must begin by listening to and then transforming your inner speech. This means becoming aware of the stories you are constantly telling yourself. Are you imagining people treating you with kindness or hostility? Are you expecting success or failure? Are you internally reliving painful memories or mentally scripting new and empowering outcomes? What you rehearse within becomes your dominant state, and your state creates your reality. The law of consciousness is exact. It does not care whether your inner speech is deliberate or automatic, positive or negative. It simply reflects it. By observing your inner speech, you begin to reclaim your creative authority. You no longer allow thoughts to wander unchecked or destructive narratives to repeat endlessly. Instead, you become the master of your inner world, choosing deliberately what you dwell on, what you affirm, and what you expect. You replace "I always mess up" with "everything works out for me." You replace mental arguments with mental gratitude. You stop imagining worst-case scenarios and start envisioning beautiful outcomes. The change may feel small at first, but it is profound. For once the inner dialogue changes, the external world must follow. Inner conversations also reveal what you truly believe, regardless of what you say you want. You may claim you desire love, but if your inner speech is filled with bitterness or fear of betrayal, that is the message being accepted by your deeper mind. You may say you want success, but if your inner talk is filled with self-doubt and worry, then those are the feelings that take root. It is the dominant emotion behind your inner words that the subconscious picks up on, not the surface-level intention. So true transformation requires honesty with yourself, a willingness to confront and rewrite the inner dialogue that no longer serves you. Your inner conversations are not only with yourself, but also with others in imagination. These imagined dialogues, what you expect others to say, how you believe they feel about you, what you replay from past interactions, carry as much creative power as real conversations. If you constantly rehearse being misunderstood, dismissed, or judged, those experiences will echo in your external relationships. But if you rehearse being heard, loved, and supported, you shift the entire dynamic. Relationships transform not because others change, but because you stop feeding the old image of them with your inner speech. Revising inner conversations also allows you to heal the past and create a new emotional foundation. You can take a painful memory and rewrite the internal dialogue around it. Instead of repeating the story of betrayal or failure, you script a new interaction in your imagination, one filled with compassion, resolution, or growth. Though the event may be fixed in time, its emotional imprint is not. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined with feeling. When you change how you talk to yourself about the past, you alter how it lives in your present and affects your future. The process of mastering inner conversations requires persistence. The mind has grooves, well-worn paths it likes to travel. You may find yourself slipping into old patterns, rehearsing doubts or fears almost by habit. But with awareness and intention, you can interrupt these patterns and redirect them. Every time you choose a loving, empowering inner response, you are carving a new path in consciousness, and each repetition makes that path more stable and dominant. Over time, your inner conversations become naturally supportive, kind, expectant of good, and your outer world reflects this new tone. Changing your inner speech does not mean denying reality, but it means refusing to dwell in states that perpetuate unwanted experiences. It means understanding that what you think and feel repeatedly is not private or meaningless. It is a conversation with the creative power within you. And that power is always listening, always responding, always bringing forth into form whatever you assume to be true. When you begin to speak differently within, not only do you hear a new voice, you see a new world. Assumption is not a passive wish or vague hope. It is an active claim of identity, a deliberate choice to occupy the state of being, where what you desire is already true. It is the decision to embody the feeling, thoughts, and behaviors of the person who already has what they once sought. When you assume something, you are not begging for it, wishing for it, or chasing it. You are receiving it in consciousness, affirming it as your present reality, and aligning yourself inwardly with its truth. This act of assumption may seem subtle, but it is one of the most potent forces in existence, for what is assumed to be true becomes true through the laws of consciousness and reflection. The world around you does not simply react to effort or hard work. It reacts to belief. Belief, when sustained with emotion and persistence, becomes assumption. And assumption is not something you try occasionally. It is something you live in, dwell in, and return to moment after moment. It becomes your dwelling place. If you assume you are loved no matter how others behave or what your past has shown, you will begin to filter life through that state, and life will begin to reflect it. The people who appear in your life, the situations that unfold, and even your own reactions will shift to accommodate this new inner posture. Assumption begins within the imagination. You must first see yourself as the one who already possesses the thing desired. You imagine the end scene, the result fully realized, and then you ask yourself how it feels, what it changes in you, and what thoughts naturally arise from that state. You begin to think from the end, not of the end. Thinking of something places it in the future, always out of reach, always separate from your current state. But thinking from the end claims it is done. It puts you in the shoes of the fulfilled version of yourself, and from there everything begins to organize around that inner stance. This assumption must be maintained with consistency. Doubt may arise, appearances may contradict, but these are merely echoes of old beliefs. If you entertain them, you step out of your assumed state and re-enter the former one. The key is to remain faithful to the new assumption, even in the absence of outer confirmation. This is the true test of belief, to hold it when nothing seems to support it, when everything external tempts you to give up. But it is in that perseverance that transformation occurs. The subconscious does not need facts. It only needs consistency. If you assume a new reality with unwavering conviction, it must outpicture itself in time. The power of assumption also lies in the fact that the mind cannot hold conflicting beliefs without creating inner tension. If you claim wealth inwardly but feel unworthy of it, your assumption is weakened by contradiction. Therefore, assuming a new reality often requires revising your sense of self. You must bring your identity into harmony with the thing you desire. It is not enough to say, "I am rich," if deep down you feel small, incapable, or undeserving. You must begin to speak to yourself in a new language. Choose thoughts that affirm your new self, and act in ways that reflect your inner claim. This is not pretending. It is the process of transformation. When assumption becomes natural, effortless, and habitual, the line between imagination and reality begins to blur. You no longer ask, "When will it happen?" because to you it already has. And because you carry yourself in this way, life begins to respond in kind. This is why those who live from strong positive assumptions often appear to be lucky or blessed. They have simply chosen to assume the best, and have made it their dwelling place. The world then has no choice but to comply, because it is only ever reflecting back the contents of consciousness. Assumption also simplifies manifestation. You do not need to beg the universe or analyze every step along the way. You do not need to convince anyone or manipulate circumstances. You only need to assume the end, dwell in its feeling, and allow everything else to flow from that state. The assumption becomes your compass. It informs your decisions, filters your thoughts, and determines your reactions. And the more you live in it, the more naturally everything aligns. You are not forcing reality. You are allowing it to reflect what you have already chosen to believe. There is a quiet confidence that comes from assumption. It is not arrogance because it is not based on ego. It is based on alignment. When you know something is already yours in consciousness, you do not compete or compare. You do not rush or panic. You walk in assurance not because of what you see, but because of what you feel. You know the end is certain because you have already lived it within. And because you live in its feeling, you are no longer seeking, it is seeking you. Assumption is a tool available at all times, regardless of your background, history, or current conditions. You can assume abundance while living in lack. You can assume health while in pain. You can assume love while feeling lonely. The point is not to deny reality, but to offer the subconscious a new blueprint, one that it will begin to express as soon as it is accepted. And acceptance is the fruit of repetition, emotion, and faith. When you assume with your whole being, not just with your mind, but with your heart and body, the transformation is inevitable. The seen world must conform to the inner world, for assumption, when made fully and faithfully, is destiny in motion. Faith is not a mere intellectual agreement or religious sentiment. It is the creative substance of all things. It is the unseen certainty that precedes every manifestation. The inner knowing that what you have imagined is already yours. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between thought and experience. It is not hope which still entertains doubt. Faith is absolute assurance. It does not ask how or when, it simply knows. It accepts the unseen reality as more substantial than the evidence of the senses. And because consciousness is the only reality, faith becomes the mechanism by which consciousness impresses itself upon the subconscious. And the subconscious then reflects that impression back as the world of form. To walk by faith is to refuse to be led by appearances. The senses will often testify to the opposite of your desire. You may see lack, feel loneliness, hear rejection, or encounter delay. But faith is the power that allows you to say within yourself, "It is done." Faith means trusting the unseen reality you have chosen, holding to it regardless of external evidence. You must be willing to remain faithful to your desire when every visible sign seems to deny it. That is not denial of fact, but the affirmation of truth, a truth that begins in imagination and is sustained by unwavering conviction. Faith is not blind. It sees more clearly than the natural eye. It sees the completed end. It dwells in the result as if it were now. Faith occupies the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not because it has material proof, but because it understands the laws of creation. It knows that once an idea is accepted in consciousness and felt as real, it must manifest. The timeline may vary, the method may be unknown, but the outcome is inevitable. The only thing that can delay manifestation is the withdrawal of faith, the return to doubt, the pull of fear. But even then, the principle does not fail. It simply reflects what is most dominant in your awareness. Faith must be fed. It grows through attention, repetition, and the selective focus of the mind. Every time you return to the vision of your desire fulfilled, you are strengthening your faith. Every time you speak as if it were done, you are watering the seed. You are not trying to create something. You are revealing it. You are bringing the unseen into form through the consistent, faithful application of consciousness. You are training your mind to believe in what it cannot yet see, and this belief becomes the channel through which the unseen becomes seen. Faith and imagination work together. Imagination presents the vision, and faith sustains it. When you imagine vividly and feel deeply, you are impressing your inner being with the reality of your desire. But it is faith that holds that impression and carries it through to expression. Without faith, the imagination falters. Without imagination, faith lacks form. But together they become a force of creation. You must dare to believe in the reality of your unseen assumption, to hold to it with such certainty that the outer world has no choice but to comply. Your faith does not beg, it claims. It does not wait, it dwells. And in dwelling, it calls all things into alignment with itself. You can measure the strength of your faith by your reactions. When delay comes, do you panic or remain calm? When criticism arises, do you shrink or stand tall in your conviction? When nothing seems to move, do you become restless or do you rest in the unseen? These are the indicators of your inner state. Faith is not shaken by the winds of circumstance because it does not derive its strength from what it sees. It is rooted in what it knows. And what it knows is that consciousness is always creating, always reflecting, always expressing what is held as true within. Living by faith requires discipline. The mind will wander, the senses will distract, the world will tempt you to believe in limitation, but you must return again and again to the state of faith. You must speak as if it were already done, feel as though it were already so, and walk as if nothing could contradict it. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are aligning yourself with the unseen realm, which is the source of all that becomes seen. You are trusting the process of creation, understanding that your role is not to make it happen, but to allow it to happen through the channel of belief. Faith also reshapes your identity. It moves you from being someone who wants to someone who is. You no longer say, I hope to be healed. You say, I am whole. You no longer say, I wish for love. You say, I am loved. You no longer say, I want abundance. You say, I am abundant. These are not affirmations you chant mindlessly. They are truths you accept fully, even in the absence of evidence. And because you accept them as true, they become true. You embody the state now, and life responds accordingly. This way of living is not common because it requires inner strength and courage. It requires you to look beyond the five senses and trust in the reality of your own consciousness. It requires you to believe not because of what you see, but in spite of what you see. This is faith, not as a theory, but as a living, breathing state of being. It is the quiet power that moves mountains, not by effort, but by certainty. It does not rush, it rests. It does not force, it flows. And through this rest, this flow, this knowing, the invisible becomes visible, and the impossible becomes inevitable. Gratitude is far more than a polite gesture or a reaction to favorable circumstances. It is a state of consciousness that aligns you with the abundance of life itself. When truly felt, gratitude becomes a powerful magnet for all that is good. It shifts your attention away from lack, from what is missing or delayed, and focuses it instead on the richness already present in your experience. This shift is not just emotional, it is vibrational. It raises your frequency to match the very things you desire, because what you feel deeply you attract. Gratitude signals to the subconscious that you are already in possession of your desire. And since the subconscious cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined with feeling, it begins to move your world in accordance with that feeling of fulfillment. The practice of gratitude must be intentional, not mechanical. It is not about listing things to be thankful for while your heart remains unchanged. It is about entering a genuine state of appreciation, of feeling the joy, peace, or relief, as though your desires have already materialized. When you express gratitude for something before it happens, you are not deceiving yourself. You are activating the law of assumption. You are impressing your inner being with the message that what you seek is already yours, and in doing so you are aligning with the end result. The feeling of thank you becomes your affirmation that all is well, that you are cared for, guided, and supported by something greater than your senses can explain. Gratitude is also a remedy for resistance. Often, the very energy of trying too hard to manifest something carries with it the undertone of desperation or doubt. You may affirm abundance yet still feel anxious about money. You may visualize love yet still feel lonely inside. In these cases, gratitude acts as a reset, shifting your state from one of striving to one of receiving. Instead of asking or longing, you begin thanking, as if the prayer is already answered, as if the door is already open. This is not wishful thinking, it is creative alignment. It is the inner shift that precedes the outer shift, because once you feel the state of gratitude fully, your reality begins to mirror it back to you. You do not wait for conditions to be perfect in order to be grateful. You bring gratitude into the now, and conditions begin to respond. Even in the absence of visible results, you can always find something to appreciate. A small comfort, a lesson learned, a breath taken, a moment of peace, and from that seed of thankfulness a greater harvest can grow. When you consistently return to gratitude, you are training your mind to see life through a different lens, a lens that finds the good, expects the best, and creates from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. You begin to live in the energy of already having, and in doing so you collapse the distance between you and your desire. The power of gratitude also lies in its ability to transform your self-concept. When you are grateful for who you are becoming, you stop judging where you are. You stop measuring yourself against the past, or worrying about how far you have left to go. Instead, you embrace the journey with joy, knowing that every step is purposeful and sacred. You start to affirm your worthiness, not as a reward for achievement, but as a recognition of your inherent value. Gratitude allows you to receive the present moment without resistance and to open yourself fully to the gifts that are already trying to reach you. This inner posture of thankfulness also changes how you relate to others. You stop seeing people as obstacles, competition, or sources of pain. You begin to view them as mirrors, teachers, and co-creators. You appreciate the role each person plays in your life, even those who challenge you, because you understand that every interaction is contributing to your growth. Gratitude turns resentment into understanding, envy into inspiration, and fear into faith. It is not about denying the difficult emotions, but about choosing not to dwell in them. You recognize them, feel them, and then shift back into the energy of appreciation, because you know that what you focus on expands. When you wake up in the morning and immediately offer thanks, not just for what is, but for what is coming, you are claiming your power. When you go to bed with a heart full of gratitude, not just for what happened, but for what you are becoming, you are anchoring yourself in the vibration of your desires fulfilled. These simple acts may seem small, but they are profound. They recalibrate your energy, redirect your thoughts, and renew your faith. They build a foundation of joy that is not dependent on circumstances, and from this foundation anything becomes possible. Gratitude also enhances your ability to receive. Many people unconsciously block their own blessings because they are not open to receiving. They feel unworthy, guilty, or doubtful when good comes their way. But gratitude dissolves those blocks. It opens the heart, softens the mind, and prepares the inner space to hold more. When you are truly grateful, you do not sabotage what you receive. You cherish it. You no longer push love away, deflect compliments, or question your success. You allow the goodness in and nurture it because you feel safe in the knowing that you are supported and deserving. Living in gratitude is living in harmony with the creative power that governs all things. It is choosing to speak the language of abundance, to feel the presence of what you seek before it arrives. It is becoming a vessel for more by celebrating what already is. And through this celebration, you signal to the universe that you are ready, that you are aligned, that you are in the state of having. Gratitude is the echo of answered prayer spoken before the evidence arrives, and it is through this echo that the manifestation is called forth. The truth is, the universe responds not to begging, effort, or worry, but to the state you occupy within. When you claim your desire is already fulfilled, when you dare to believe with unwavering faith, when you assume the end boldly, live it in imagination, speak from it, think from it, and give thanks for it before it appears, you align yourself with the very laws that govern creation. You do not chase your manifestation. You become the version of yourself who already has it. The world outside you cannot help but mirror back the world you have accepted within. So remain in the state of the wish fulfilled. Let your inner world be filled with assumption, faith, gratitude, and unwavering trust, and then what you have imagined will harden into fact. The universe can do nothing but say yes to the self that knows it is already done. There is a quiet assurance that comes when you are on the right path. It is not always announced with fanfare or marked with grand signs from the heavens, but rather it unfolds like a whisper in the depths of your soul. There are moments when the world around you may seem chaotic, yet within there is a deep and abiding peace. This is the first sign. You feel a sense of calm even when the external world does not reflect it. Its circumstances may shift, challenges may arise, yet you remain unshaken. For something within tells you that all is unfolding as it should. Another sign is that you begin to witness small, seemingly insignificant manifestations of your desires. It may be a phrase you hear repeated, a book that appears at the perfect moment, a conversation that confirms what you already knew deep inside. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. The world around you is beginning to echo the thoughts you have impressed upon your mind. What once seemed distant now feels within reach. You see the evidence before it fully materializes, and you know you're on the right path. There is also a shift in your relationships. Some people begin to fade from your life, not out of malice or conflict, but because their presence is no longer in alignment with where you are going. Others, however, enter unexpectedly, carrying messages, opportunities, and encouragement. You do not chase connections anymore. They flow effortlessly to you. Those who remain in your life seem to reflect the version of yourself you are becoming. as if the world is adjusting to match the new image you have formed in your mind. Doubt and fear do not hold the same power over you. You may still hear their whispers, but they do not control your actions. Where once hesitation may have stopped you, now you move forward despite uncertainty. You begin to trust in unseen forces guiding you, in the invisible bridge forming beneath your feet as you walk forward. This trust is not based on logic, but on knowing, a knowing that does not require evidence, only belief. Your desires no longer feel like distant dreams, but present realities waiting to unfold. You stop yearning and start embodying. You think from the place of fulfillment, not lack. You act as if it is already done, because within you already possess it. The more you persist in this knowing, the more the world rearranges itself to reflect it back to you. Opportunities arise in ways you never expected. Doors you once knocked on without response now swing open effortlessly. Where you once struggled, now there is flow. You realize that struggle was never necessary. It was belief in struggle that made it real. Now, as you trust in the unseen, ease replaces effort, and things begin to fall into place without force. Synchronicities become a regular occurrence. The right words, the right people, the right situations, all seem to appear at the perfect time. Time itself feels different. Moments of deep presence stretch infinitely, while unnecessary distractions fade away. You are no longer pulled by the past or anxious about the future, for you are fully engaged in the now. And it is in this now that the power to shape all things exists. You no longer seek signs, for you have become the sign. The world reflects your inner state, and because you have chosen to walk in certainty, the path beneath you continues to unfold in perfect harmony. The path was always there, waiting for you to trust, to believe, to step forward in faith. And now, as you move with unwavering conviction, you realize you were never lost. You were simply awakening to the truth that you were always on the right path. There is a quiet assurance that comes when you are on the right path. It is not always announced with fanfare or marked with grand signs from the heavens, but rather it unfolds like a whisper in the depths of your soul. There are moments when the world around you may seem chaotic, yet within there is a deep and abiding peace. This is the first sign. You feel a sense of calm even when the external world does not reflect it. Circumstances may shift, challenges may arise, yet you remain unshaken, for something within tells you that all is unfolding as it should. Another sign is that you begin to witness small, seemingly insignificant manifestations of your desires. It may be a phrase you hear repeated, a book that appears at the perfect moment, a conversation that confirms what you already knew deep inside. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. The world around you is beginning to echo the thoughts you have impressed upon your mind. What once seemed distant now feels within reach. You see the evidence before it fully materializes, and you know you are on the right path. There is also a shift in your relationships. Some people begin to fade from your life, not out of malice or conflict, but because their presence is no longer in alignment with where you are going. Others, however, enter unexpectedly, carrying messages, opportunities, and encouragement. You do not chase connections anymore. They flow effortlessly to you. Those who remain in your life seem to reflect the version of yourself you are becoming, as if the world is adjusting to match the new image you have formed in your mind. Doubt and fear do not hold the same power over you. You may still hear their whispers, but they do not control your actions. Where once hesitation may have stopped you, now you move forward despite uncertainty. You begin to trust in unseen forces guiding you, in the invisible bridge forming beneath your feet as you walk forward. This trust is not based on logic, but on knowing, a knowing that does not require evidence, only belief. Your desires no longer feel like distant dreams, but present realities waiting to unfold. You stop yearning and start embodying. You think from the place of fulfillment, not lack. You act as if it is already done, because within you already possess it. The more you persist in this knowing, the more the world rearranges itself to reflect it back to you. Opportunities arise in ways you never expected. Doors you once knocked on without response now swing open effortlessly. Where you once struggled, now there is flow. You realize that struggle was never necessary. It was belief in struggle that made it real. Now, as you trust in the unseen, ease replaces effort, and things begin to fall into place without force. Synchronicities become a regular occurrence. The right words, the right people, the right situations all seem to appear at the perfect time. Time itself feels different. Moments of deep presence stretch infinitely, while unnecessary distractions fade away. You are no longer pulled by the past or anxious about the future, for you are fully engaged in the now. And it is in this now that the power to shape all things exists. You no longer seek signs, for you have become the sign. The world reflects your inner state, and because you have chosen to walk in certainty, the path beneath you continues to unfold in perfect harmony. The path was always there, waiting for you to trust, to believe, to step forward in faith. And now, as you move with unwavering conviction, you realize you were never lost. You were simply awakening to the truth that you were always on the right path. There is a shift in your emotions, a change in how you respond to the world. Where once you were quick to react, now you observe. The situations that once triggered frustration, fear, or doubt now seem distant, as if they no longer belong to you. You begin to realize that your inner state dictates your experience, and you guard it fiercely. You do not allow external events to disturb your inner sanctuary, for you have discovered that the only reality that matters is the one within you. You have discovered that the only reality that matters is the one within you. When something does not align with your new self-concept, you do not resist it. You simply turn your attention away, knowing that what you focus on expands. This is a powerful sign that you are on the right path. Your emotions are no longer dictated by the world, but by the truth you hold within. You notice that the old version of you, the one that doubted, worried, and hesitated, no longer feels familiar. You catch glimpses of the thoughts you used to entertain, but they seem foreign now, as if they belong to someone else. You have stepped into a new identity, and the old self no longer has power over you. This transition is not always sudden. It happens in small moments, in tiny realizations, in brief flashes of awareness that remind you that you have changed. And the more you embrace this new self, the more the world conforms to it. You do not force change, you allow it, and it happens effortlessly. The concept of time itself begins to shift. What once felt urgent now feels insignificant. You no longer rush, for you understand that all things come in their appointed time. There is a patience, a stillness, a knowing that what you seek is already yours. You stop looking for evidence because you no longer need it. The world must reflect what you believe, and you hold steadfast to that belief. Even when the physical world has yet to catch up, this patience is not passive. It is the greatest act of faith, a faith so unwavering that the world bends to meet it. You begin to feel a deep sense of gratitude, not just for what you have, but for what you know is already unfolding. This gratitude is not conditional. It does not wait for things to appear before it is felt. It is a gratitude that precedes manifestation, a gratitude that affirms your certainty. And the more you dwell in this feeling, the faster things materialize. You no longer seek, you receive. You no longer hope, you expect. You no longer wish, you declare. And in that declaration, the world must respond. You no longer question whether you are on the right path, for the path itself is not something you find, it is something you create. Each step forward is an act of creation, each thought a brushstroke on the canvas of your reality. You are no longer a passive observer of life, you are its architect. The signs are not outside of you, they emanate from within. You do not need to look for them, for they are already present in every moment, in every breath, in every beat of your heart. There is a sense of inevitability about your success, a feeling that nothing can stop you. You no longer entertain thoughts of failure, for failure itself is an illusion, a concept created by those who do not understand the nature of creation. You know now that everything is working in your favor, even the challenges, even the detours, even the moments that once felt like setbacks. They were never setbacks, they were stepping stones, perfectly placed to lead you exactly where you need to be. The opinions of others no longer concern you. You do not seek validation, for you are already validated by your own knowing. You do not require permission, for you have given yourself permission to step into the life that has always been meant for you. The approval of the world is meaningless compared to the approval you have given yourself. And because of this, the world respects you in a way it never has before, and people sense something different about you. They may not be able to put it into words, but they feel it. They feel the certainty, the confidence, the unshakable belief that radiates from within you. The right path is not always the easiest, but it is the most fulfilling. It requires trust, persistence, and an unbreakable faith in the unseen. But when you walk it, when you commit to it fully, everything changes. You realize that you are not merely walking a path, you are the path. The journey was never about finding something outside of you, it was about uncovering what was already within. And now, as you move forward with unwavering certainty, you understand that you were never lost, never uncertain, never without direction. You were always exactly where you needed to be. There comes a moment when you no longer question whether things are working in your favor. You no longer seek reassurance from the outside world because something deep within you already knows. It is not an arrogant knowing, nor is it a fleeting belief. It is a quiet certainty, a conviction that does not waver. You may not yet see the full manifestation of your desires, but you feel them as real, as present, as inevitable. And that feeling alone is enough. It carries you forward without resistance, without doubt, without the need to look back. When you are on the right path, you begin to experience a profound shift in how you view setbacks. What once appeared as obstacles now seem like divine arrangements, guiding you in ways you could not have planned for yourself. You no longer see delays as denials, but as preparation. You trust the timing of your life because you have come to understand that everything is aligning with absolute precision. Even when something does not go as expected, you find yourself responding differently. There is no panic, no despair, only a quiet awareness that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. A deep sense of detachment begins to take root. Not the kind of detachment that means indifference, but the kind that comes from true faith. You no longer chase after things with desperation because you recognize that what is meant for you cannot be lost. You do not cling to circumstances, to people, to outcomes, because you understand that the source of all creation is within you. You do not need to control the process. You need only trust it. This is when things begin to flow effortlessly. The moment you release attachment to how something must happen, you create space for miracles to unfold. You find yourself being led by intuition rather than logic. Your mind, once filled with doubts and overthinking, becomes quiet, and you begin to listen to something deeper. You follow nudges, impulses, subtle inner promptings that guide you in ways that cannot always be explained. And when you trust these feelings, they always lead you somewhere meaningful. You start to see how everything is connected, how each experience was placed in your path for a reason. Even the moments that once seem insignificant now reveal themselves to be stepping stones, perfectly orchestrated to bring you to where you are meant to be. Your energy shifts, and with it, the way the world responds to you. You notice how people treat you differently, how opportunities seem to present themselves without effort, how the things you once struggled for now come with ease. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. The outer world is simply reflecting the changes that have taken place within you. You no longer doubt your worth, and so the world no longer gives you reasons to question it. You no longer seek validation, and so you find yourself naturally respected. The shift happens subtly at first, but over time it becomes undeniable. You are no longer trying to attract things, you are embodying the state in which they naturally come to you. There is a newfound appreciation for stillness. The need for constant movement, for distractions, for external stimulation fades away. You find peace in the present moment, in simply being. There is no rush, no urgency, no impatience, just a deep contentment that does not depend on circumstances. You realize that happiness is not something you chase, but something you allow. And the more you dwell in this state, the more your external world begins to mirror it. The more the people, the opportunities, the experiences that come into your life all seem to align effortlessly with the peace you have cultivated within. You no longer react to life, you respond to it. Where once you were easily shaken by challenges, now you remain grounded. You see beyond appearances, beyond temporary circumstances, and into the deeper meaning of things. You no longer waste energy on worry, on frustration, on fear, because you understand that all things are working together for your highest good. And even in moments of uncertainty, you remain steady because you have built your foundation on something unshakable, the knowing that your path is divinely guided. Your desires no longer feel separate from you. There is no gap between where you are and where you want to be, because you have stepped into the feeling of already having it. You speak, think, and act from the reality you have chosen, and the world begins to reflect it back to you. What once felt like wishful thinking now feels like an inevitable unfolding. The distance between desire and manifestation disappears, and all that remains is your unwavering faith in what is already yours. The things that used to consume your energy no longer hold the same power over you. The need to prove yourself, to seek approval, to justify your choices fades away. You no longer concern yourself with how others perceive you, because you are no longer living for their validation. You are living for your own truth, and that truth does not require explanation. The opinions of others become background noise, while your inner voice becomes background noise. While your inner voice becomes background noise, 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 while your inner voice becomes background noise. You do not need the world to agree with your vision, for you know that it is already done. You become magnetic to the things that align with your highest self. People, experiences, and opportunities appear effortlessly, drawn to the energy you now radiate. You no longer chase, you attract. You do not beg for things to happen, you allow them. And in this allowing, you realize that you have stepped into a state of effortless creation. The more you trust, the more things align. The more you let go, the more things come to you. The more you surrender, the more power you gain. You see evidence of your alignment everywhere. The numbers, the signs, the synchronicities. They are constant reminders that you are exactly where you need to be. The world begins to feel like a conversation, one in which the universe is always speaking to you, guiding you, reassuring you. The path ahead no longer feels uncertain because you are no longer waiting for something to happen. You are walking in the knowing that it already has. You realize that nothing is missing. The feeling of lack, of longing, of needing something outside of yourself to be complete disappears. You no longer wait for the future to bring you happiness, for you have found it within. And as you rest in this state, you watch as the world around you transforms to match it. You have become the embodiment of your desires. And because of this, they can no longer be separate from you. There is a profound stillness in knowing, a quiet power in certainty, a peace that cannot be disturbed. This is how you know you are on the right path, not because of what is happening around you, but because of what is happening within you. The signs are no longer something you look for. They are something you recognize. And as you move forward, you do so with absolute confidence, knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. There is no need to rush, no need to force, no need to demand anything from life. You begin to realize that everything is flowing exactly as it should, in perfect divine timing. The urgency that once ruled your mind disappears, replaced by an unshakable trust in the process. You no longer grasp at the future, nor do you dwell in the past. You simply exist in the now, fully aware that everything is unfolding in your favor. The people around you may not understand this shift. They may wonder why you are no longer worried, why you do not react the way you once did, why you seem so calm even when things appear uncertain. But that is because they are still caught in the illusion of lack, of struggle, of separation. You, however, have stepped beyond that illusion. You see beyond appearances, beyond temporary circumstances, into the unseen reality that is always shaping your life. You are no longer swayed by negativity. It no longer has a place within you. What used to trigger you, what used to disturb your peace, now simply passes through you like a fleeting shadow. You are no longer bound by the limitations of the old self. You have become someone new, someone who operates from a higher understanding, a greater awareness. And in this state, nothing can shake you. Nothing can pull you away from the deep knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. Doubt has no hold over you. Fear no longer paralyzes you. You no longer question whether you are worthy, whether you are capable, whether you are moving in the right direction. You feel it, you know it, and because of that, the path ahead becomes clear. Decisions that once felt impossible now come easily. The fog of uncertainty lifts, revealing the way forward with absolute clarity. You do not hesitate. You do not second guess. You move with confidence, with purpose, with the full knowing that every step you take is guided. Opportunities appear effortlessly. What once seemed out of reach now comes to you without struggle. You no longer need to chase, to beg, to plead for things to happen. They happen naturally as a direct reflection of the state you are in. You do not have to manipulate circumstances, nor do you need to convince anyone of your worth. The energy you radiate speaks for itself. The world responds to you in a way it never has before. You no longer live in resistance. There is no need to fight against life, to force things into place, to control every outcome. You let go, and in that letting go, you find that everything begins to align effortlessly. What is meant for you flows into your life with ease. What is not meant for you naturally falls away. You do not chase, you do not cling. You simply allow. And in this state of allowing, you discover the greatest power of all, the power of trust. You begin to see signs everywhere, not because you are looking for them, but because you are aligned with them. The universe is always speaking to you, always confirming that you are on the right path. Numbers, symbols, synchronicities. Each one a gentle reminder that you are exactly where you need to be. You no longer need external validation, but when you receive it, it only strengthens the truth you already know. There is a new sense of purpose in everything you do. Even the smallest actions feel meaningful. There is no more aimless wandering, no more questioning why you are here or what you are meant to do. The answers reveal themselves effortlessly. The vision becomes clearer, the purpose undeniable. You wake up each day with a quiet excitement, a deep gratitude for the life you are creating. The dreams that once felt distant now feel close, tangible, real. You find joy in the present moment, no longer waiting for some future event to bring happiness, no longer believing that fulfillment lies somewhere outside of you. You realize that everything you have been seeking has been within you all along. And because of that, the world begins to reflect your inner joy. You attract experiences that mirror the happiness, the peace, the love you have cultivated within. You notice how effortlessly things unfold when you surrender. The people who are meant to be in your life show up at the right time. The opportunities you once longed for appear without struggle. The doors that once seemed closed now open with ease. You are no longer forcing. Life is carrying you forward, guiding you with gentle precision. The more you trust, the more you allow, the more you receive. The past no longer defines you. You are not bound by old stories, old limitations, old beliefs that once held you back. You have stepped into a new version of yourself, one that is limitless, one that is free. You no longer replay the past in your mind, no longer dwell on what could have been, what should have been. You understand now that everything happened exactly as it needed to bring you to this moment. There are no regrets, only wisdom gained. You are no longer controlled by fear. It no longer has a place in your mind, in your heart, in your actions. Fear once held you back, but now you move forward with courage, with certainty, with a knowing that nothing can stand in your way. You understand that fear is an illusion, a false story that no longer has power over you. The moment you release it, you become unstoppable. You feel lighter, freer, as if a weight you did not even realize you were carrying has been lifted. The burdens, the worries, the anxieties, they are gone. In their place is peace, a peace that cannot be shaken, that does not depend on circumstances, that remains steady no matter what is happening around you. You no longer need to explain yourself, to prove yourself, to seek approval from others. You move in silence, with confidence, with a knowing that speaks louder than words. You do not need the world to understand your journey, for you understand it. You do not need anyone to validate your path, for you walk it with unwavering faith. Everything in your life begins to feel effortless, not because challenges do not exist, but because you no longer see them as obstacles. You see them as opportunities. You welcome them, knowing that they are simply part of the process. You do not resist, you do not fight against them, you move through them with grace, knowing that they are shaping you, preparing you for what is to come. Your dreams no longer feel distant. They feel real, present, already yours. You no longer wait for them to happen. You live as if they already have, and in doing so, you bring them into reality. You embody the energy of what you desire, and the world cannot help but reflect it back to you. This is how you know you are on the right path, not by what others say, not by what the world tells you, but by what you feel deep within. It is a knowing beyond words, beyond logic, beyond explanation. It is a certainty that does not waver. You no longer need to seek signs. You are the sign. You no longer need to question. You already know. And as you move forward, you do so with unwavering trust, with absolute confidence, with the full knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You begin to realize that the struggles that once consumed you were never meant to break you, but to build you. Every moment of pain, every trial, every seeming setback was nothing more than a preparation for the greatness unfolding before you. You look back, not with regret, but with gratitude, for you now understand that without those moments, you would not have awakened to the truth of who you are. You would not have discovered the depth of your own power. You would not have seen how infinitely capable you are of transforming your own life. The resistance you once felt toward change begins to dissolve. You no longer fear the unknown. You no longer cling to what was, to what felt safe, to what once gave you comfort. You understand now that growth requires movement, that transformation requires letting go. And so you surrender, not in weakness, but in absolute trust. You surrender to the unfolding of life, knowing that every shift, every change, every redirection is guiding you closer to your divine destiny. You find that you are no longer attached to outcomes. You do not demand that things happen in a certain way, at a certain time, in a certain form. You simply allow. You move in faith, in certainty, in the deep knowing that what is meant for you will always find its way to you. And because of that, you are no longer ruled by frustration, by impatience, by doubt. You remain steady, unmoved by circumstances, unshaken by delays, for you know that everything is aligning for you in perfect divine order. The energy of scarcity, of lack, of limitation no longer controls you. You do not operate from a place of needing, of begging, of chasing. You operate from a place of fullness. You embody the very thing you desire, and because of that, it naturally flows to you. You do not worry about what you do not have. You do not obsess over what is missing. Instead, you focus on what is already within you, on what is already unfolding, on the abundance that is already present. And in doing so, you attract even more. You notice how the right people begin to appear in your life, not by chance, not by coincidence, but by alignment. You no longer struggle to maintain relationships that drain you, that do not serve you, that pull you away from your purpose. You let go of the need to force connections, to seek approval, to hold on to what no longer belongs in your life. And as you do, the right souls enter, people who align with your vision, who support your growth, who elevate your spirit. You realize that solitude does not mean loneliness. You no longer fear being alone, for you understand that solitude is where your greatest power is cultivated. You cherish the moments of stillness, the moments of silence, the moments where you can hear the voice within you guiding you forward. You are no longer distracted by the noise of the world, no longer seeking validation outside of yourself. You are content in your own presence, for you have discovered that everything you need has always been within you. You begin to move differently. You walk with confidence, with certainty, with a quiet power that does not need to announce itself. You no longer explain yourself, defend yourself, seek approval from those who do not understand your journey. You do not waste energy convincing anyone of your worth, for you know that those who are meant to see it already do. You do not chase opportunities, for you know that the right ones will find you. You do not force anything, for you trust that what is meant for you cannot be lost. You notice that time begins to work in your favor. What once felt delayed now arrives at the perfect moment. What once seemed impossible now unfolds effortlessly. You understand now that everything happens not when you demand it, but when you are truly ready to receive it. And so you stop resisting, stop pushing, stop doubting. You step into alignment, and in doing so you step into a flow where things begin to come together with ease. You wake up, you feel an undeniable sense of inner peace, one that is not dependent on circumstances or the approval of others. It is a peace that surpasses understanding, a calmness that remains unshaken by the turbulence of the external world. You no longer react impulsively to situations. Instead, you observe them with clarity, responding with wisdom rather than fear. The things that once disturbed your mind, the worries that once kept you awake at night, no longer hold power over you. You trust in the unseen, in the divine unfolding of your path, knowing that every experience, whether joyful or challenging, is guiding you toward your highest good. Doubt no longer consumes you. You do not waste energy questioning whether you are capable, whether you are deserving, whether you are moving in the right direction. You know there is a quiet certainty within you, a deep-seated conviction that you are being led, that every step is divinely orchestrated. Even when the road ahead is unclear, you do not panic, for you have learned to trust the process. You understand now that everything happens at the perfect time, and what is meant for you will never miss you. The past no longer defines you. You are not trapped by old mistakes, regrets, or painful memories. You have released the need to relive those moments, to hold on to what no longer serves you. You have forgiven yourself, forgiven others, and set yourself free. The weight you once carried, the guilt, the shame, the resentment, is gone. In its place is a lightness, a sense of freedom that allows you to move forward, unburdened, fully open to the blessings that await you. Opportunities begin to appear effortlessly. What once felt distant now feels within reach. The right people come into your life at the right time, without force, without struggle. Doors that once seemed closed now swing open with ease. You do not need to chase anything, for you have stepped into alignment with the flow of life. Your desires, your dreams, your highest aspirations, they are no longer things you wish for, they are things you expect. And because you expect them, they come. You are no longer controlled by fear. Fear no longer dictates your choices, no longer paralyzes you from taking action. You recognize fear for what it is, a false illusion, a limiting belief that you have now transcended. Instead of resisting it, you acknowledge it and move forward anyway. Fear may whisper, but it does not lead you. You walk with courage, knowing that everything you desire is on the other side of that fear. You do not seek validation. You no longer look to others to confirm your worth, to approve of your choices, to validate your dreams. You have stepped into your own power, and in doing so you have become immune to the opinions of the world. You trust yourself. You trust your intuition, your inner voice, the divine guidance that speaks softly but clearly. You no longer need external confirmation because you already know you are exactly where you need to be. Synchronicities surround you. You notice patterns, repeating numbers, meaningful coincidences that remind you that you are being guided. These are not random occurrences, they are signs, confirmations that you are in alignment with your highest path. You no longer dismiss them as mere chance. You understand that everything is connected, that the universe is constantly speaking to you, affirming that you are on the right path. You no longer cling to control. There is no need to force things, no need to manipulate outcomes. You have learned to surrender, to trust, to let go of the illusion of control. And in doing so, you find that everything falls into place effortlessly. What is meant for you comes naturally. What is not meant for you fades away without resistance. You do not chase, you do not struggle, you allow. And in this allowing, you discover true power. Your relationships begin to shift. The people who are aligned with your new frequency naturally remain, while those who are not begin to drift away. You do not force connections. You do not beg people to stay. You understand that as you evolve, so does your environment. You no longer fear losing people because you know that those who are meant for you will always find a way to stay. You attract relationships that uplift, support, and align with your highest self. There is no more waiting. You no longer wait for happiness, for love, for success. You embody it now. You do not postpone your joy for some future moment. You live it in the present. You no longer say, "I will be happy when," because you have realized that happiness is not something to be chased. It is something to be chosen. And because you choose it now, your life begins to reflect that choice. Your self-worth is no longer tied to external achievements. You no longer measure your value based on how much you accomplish, how much you earn, how others perceive you. You have stepped into a place of deep self-acceptance, a knowing that you are enough as you are. This does not mean you do not strive for more, but you no longer attach your worth to the outcome. You know that your value is inherent, unshakable, undeniable. You wake up with gratitude. Each day is no longer something to endure, but something to embrace. You begin to notice the small things, the beauty in the simple moments, the morning sunlight, the sound of the wind, the laughter of a loved one. These things fill you with appreciation. You are no longer waiting for something extraordinary to happen to feel grateful. Gratitude has become your default state, and because of that, life continues to give you more to be grateful for. You no longer react emotionally to delays or detours. What used to frustrate you now only deepens your trust. You understand that every delay has a purpose, that every redirection is a blessing in disguise. You no longer resist when things do not go as planned, because you know that there is always a higher plan unfolding. You embrace patience, knowing that what is truly meant for you can never be lost. You feel a deep connection to something greater. Whether you call it God, the universe, divine intelligence, you no longer feel separate from it. You understand that you are not alone, that you are guided, supported, and deeply loved. This awareness changes everything. You no longer live in fear, in doubt, in uncertainty. You walk with confidence, with faith, with a knowing that you are part of something far greater than yourself. You stop seeking and start being. You no longer search for answers outside of yourself, because you realize that everything you have been looking for has always been within you. You stop trying to become someone else and instead fully embrace who you are. And in doing so, you find peace, you find purpose, you find freedom. Everything begins to align, not because you forced it, not because you fought for it, but because you became it. You stepped into the energy of what you desired, and the world responded accordingly. You no longer hope for a better life, you live it. You no longer wait for the right time, you create it. You no longer question if you are on the right path. You know you are. And because of that, you move forward, not with hesitation, but with absolute certainty. You are no longer bound by fear, by doubt, by the limitations of the past. You are free, free to create, free to love, free to live as the highest version of yourself. And as you continue on this path, you do so with the unwavering trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You find yourself no longer driven by urgency, no longer feeling the need to rush or force things into place. There is a stillness within you, a deep knowing that what is meant for you will find you effortlessly. You no longer operate from a place of desperation or scarcity, because you have realized that abundance is already yours. You no longer believe that life is something you must fight against or conquer. Instead, you flow with it, trusting that every experience is bringing you closer to the life you were always meant to live. Your mind has become clear, no longer cluttered with fear-based thoughts or self-doubt. The mental chatter that once filled your days has quieted, replaced by a calm and steady confidence. You no longer feel the need to seek reassurance from others because you have cultivated an inner strength that cannot be shaken. The old need for approval, the constant worrying about what others think, has dissolved. You stand firm in your truth, unmoved by the opinions of the world. There is a newfound ease in your presence, a lightness in the way you move through life. The struggles that once felt overwhelming no longer have the same power over you. You do not resist challenges, you welcome them, knowing that each obstacle is simply an opportunity for growth. You do not shrink in the face of adversity, you rise to meet it with unwavering faith. You trust that every difficulty is shaping you, strengthening you, refining you into the person you were always meant to become. You no longer feel the need to compare your journey to others. You have let go of the illusion that you are behind or that you must meet certain milestones to be worthy. You understand that your path is unique, that your timing is divine, and that there is no race to be won. You no longer envy the success of others because you know that what is meant for them is theirs, and what is meant for you is on its way. Jealousy has no place in your heart because you recognize that abundance is infinite and that there is more than enough for everyone. Your intuition has become sharper, guiding you with clarity and precision. You no longer second-guess yourself, no longer ignore the whispers of your soul. You trust your instincts, knowing that they are leading you in the right direction. The small, quiet voice within you has become your compass, and you follow it without hesitation. You do not need logical explanations for everything. You simply know, and in that knowing, you find freedom. You are no longer held captive by the opinions of others. The judgments, the criticisms, the expectations, they no longer define you. You have learned that you cannot control how others perceive you. And more importantly, you no longer care to try. You live authentically, unapologetically, fully aligned with your own truth. You no longer mold yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You have outgrown the need to please, and in doing so, you have stepped into the fullness of who you are. Your energy has shifted, and as a result, everything around you has begun to change. You notice that the things you once attracted, the struggles, the disappointments, the toxic cycles, are no longer present in your life. You no longer engage in meaningless drama, no longer tolerate relationships that drain your spirit. The more you honor yourself, the more you find yourself surrounded by people and experiences that uplift and inspire you. You have become a magnet for peace, for love, for abundance. You no longer chase after love, no longer seek validation in another person's presence. You have cultivated a love within yourself so deep that it radiates outward. You understand that real love does not require force, does not come with conditions or fears. You do not beg for attention. Do not settle for half-hearted connections. You attract love effortlessly because you have become love itself. The relationships in your life now reflect the love you have nurtured within. Your faith has become unshakable. You no longer question whether things will work out for you. You know they will. You do not allow temporary setbacks to discourage you because you understand that they are simply redirections, guiding you to something even greater. You trust in divine timing, knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You no longer pray out of desperation, but out of gratitude, not because you lack, but because you already have. You are no longer a prisoner of the past. The pain, the disappointments, the betrayals, they no longer hold power over you. You have released them, choosing to walk forward unburdened. You no longer carry resentment in your heart, no longer replay old wounds in your mind. Forgiveness has set you free, not because the past was justified, but because you refuse to allow it to dictate your future. You have reclaimed your power, no longer allowing what happened to define who you are. You no longer wait for permission to live the life you desire. You have stepped into a space where you create your own reality, where you boldly claim the blessings that have always been yours. You are no longer afraid to take up space, no longer afraid to speak your truth, no longer afraid to shine. You walk with confidence, with grace, with a quiet yet undeniable strength. You do not need to announce your growth. It is evident in the way you carry yourself, in the way you move through the world. You are no longer weighed down by the fear of failure. You understand that failure is an illusion, that every misstep is simply a lesson, a redirection, a stepping stone toward your success. You do not fear taking risks. Do not fear stepping outside of your comfort zone. You embrace change, knowing that the greatest transformations happen when you allow yourself to evolve. You no longer cling to the familiar, no longer hold on to what feels safe. You trust that every ending is a new beginning, that every loss is making space for something greater. You have discovered that happiness is not something to be found outside of you, not something that depends on circumstances or achievements. You have realized that happiness is a choice, a state of being that you cultivate within. You no longer postpone your joy for some future moment. You live it now. You no longer believe that you will be happy when you reach a certain goal or when things finally fall into place. You understand that happiness exists in this moment, in the here and now. You wake up each day with gratitude, not because everything is perfect, but because you have learned to see the beauty in everything. You no longer take the small things for granted, no longer overlook the blessings that surround you. You appreciate the warmth of the sun, the laughter of a friend, the simple moments that once went unnoticed. You understand that the more you focus on gratitude, the more life gives you to be grateful for. You are no longer attached to the outcome. You do not cling to specific results. Do not place your happiness in things turning out a certain way. You have surrendered, trusting that what is meant for you will come in its own perfect time. You do not resist change. Do not fight against what is unfolding. You flow with life, allowing it to unfold naturally, knowing that everything is happening for your highest good. You have stepped into a new version of yourself, one that is no longer bound by fear, by doubt, by the limitations of the past. You have become the person you were always meant to be, whole, confident, at peace. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You no longer seek external validation, no longer wait for life to happen to you. You have taken control, not through force, but through alignment. You have become unstoppable, not because you never fall, but because you always rise. You no longer dwell on what could go wrong. You focus on what is possible. You no longer limit yourself with old beliefs. You have rewritten your story. You no longer hope for change. You embody it. You have stepped into your power, and now there is no turning back. You have come too far to doubt now. Every sign, every shift, every moment of clarity has been leading you to this place of understanding. You are not lost. You are divinely guided. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. The journey may not always be easy, but the path is clear, because it is the one you were always meant to walk. Trust in the unfolding, trust in yourself, trust that you are on the right path, and nothing can take away what has already been set in motion. The life you seek is not ahead of you, it is already here. Step forward with faith and watch it manifest before your very eyes.